Hello and welcome to another episode of Getting to Know You, a video series that I'm doing here for Unstoppable Pigeon, where I sit down with friends of mine and I take the opportunity to get to know them a little better. This week, I have with me my good friend, Kurtis.
Hey.
Hello, sir.
Hey.
Hey, we got Kurtis. We got the big pulls this week.
It's your boy, Home Depot.
It's your boy, Home Depot. Today we're going to be playing... that's a joke for our longtime D&D stream watchers. Today we're going to be playing some Left 4 Dead. Hopefully our audio settings are... do I have a gun? It's been a long time since I've played Left 4 Dead, I'll tell you that much.
Uh-oh. my controller. I'm moving constantly backwards. And I don't know why. Okay. Well, shit. Hold on. You know what? You think we'd have this figured out?
It is the illusion of the YouTube podcast video that like it starts and it looks like it's all smooth and we're just like two bros playing a game and nobody's gonna see the hour that we've been trying to set this up before we start the actual recording.
I can definitely.
Oh wait, what person am I? Oh, I think
You're
Michelle is her name.
Yeah.
I had picked Coach when we did our little test thing here a second ago, and I don't think I picked a character this time, so I think it just gave me whoever.
Okay. We're gonna.
As long as I'm not nicking his friggin' Miami Vice white suit. Can you have two guns in this game?
Right trigger. Okay.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Pistols don't use any ammo. So. Okay, apparently we're gonna try to play with gyro controller.
Jesus.
And see how that works out. So I'm probably not gonna be able to do jack shit.
Well, that's all right. It is on normal, so hopefully we don't get beaten up too badly.
If I keep my hand really still, I might be okay.
Okay. The gameplay is like background noise anyway, so
oh yeah, true.
We don't have to be like Left 4 Dead pros. It should be fine.
Here's hoping because my shit is I am like I barely hit the stick.
You should see yourself on the screen. You're freaking out.
Okay, you know what? Hold on, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna disconnect.
Maybe just switch to the mouse and keyboard.
Yeah. We're going to after all that bullshit, we're going to mouse and keyboard. As somebody that is a fucking programmer, you would think that I could easily, figure this out, but apparently not.
Apparently not.
All right. Okay. How do I reload? Oh no. Okay, we don't reload.
You don't have to reload the pistol. We'll only have to figure that out. Oh shit! There might be friendly fire. Did I shoot you a little?
Yeah, you did. So it's we got friendly fire. So that
R is reload.
R is reload.
Yeah, R is reload. Scroll wheel seems to switch weapons.
Yeah, scroll wheel switches weapons. You know what? We'll figure it out. I don't know how to melee yet, but it's cool. It's cool. I don't know how to crouch either. Oh, well, I haven't played this in a while, so
it's been easily.
It's been years.
Yeah, easily 5-6 years since I played this game, probably. That does something. I know how to jump, I know how to reload, I know how to shoot, and I know how to move. That'll have to be enough. Hopefully we don't require doing anything that requires crouching, or we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Oh, no. How do I get a melee weapon? Okay.
I think you have only the choice of a melee weapon or guns.
Oh, no, E. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll do it. We'll just go with the guns. It's easier to do. Okay.
I like the guns.
All right. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah, we're good.
We're off to the races.
We're off to the races.
Alrighty.
Woo.
Oh, zombs. So.
Get out of the way, Nick.
Oh Jesus.
Oh no.
Face rear enemies. Oh shit.
Uh,
I picked this game because I thought it would be like number one. You're like my number one top. Oh, boomer! You're my number one top like horror aficionado buddy. So I was like, oh, we should play a zombie game.
Oh yeah,
I
definitely.
am immediately concerned that
Reloading.
I'm gonna have a hard time focusing on talking while playing this game.
Yeah, that's definitely that definitely could be for sure.
Whoever said,
But you know what? It's the journey. It's the journey.
It's the journey we go on. Whoever said let's players and people who make YouTube videos for a living don't have a very particular skill set. Doesn't know what they're talking about because it's not fucking easy.
Yeah. No, it's not fucking easy
to
at
do
all.
this while holding a complete ass conversation. Hello. So since I brought that up, let's talk about that. You are you're big time horror fan. In addition to I don't know how to pick up two. Oh, there we go.
Grabbing a shot.
Big time horror fan, Boomer. And you've been as long as I've known you, which in horror movies and monster movies and stuff like that was never really my thing.
Yeah.
I know you and Russell are like my brother for our audios, are like two peas in a pod with with the horror
I was
movies.
just about to say that.
When
definitely.
did you get into like horror movies and monster movies and stuff? What's your
man. You know what? I feel like I have to say this. Just for this, as well as I knew that we were going to be talking about horror movies, I am wearing my House of a Thousand Corpses T-shirt.
Oh, okay, there you go.
That's for
great.
Today.
That's great for an audio format that doesn't have face
exactly.
cams.
I felt like it needed to be known, though. To be honest, it really happened. It really happened when I was just a kid, and my dad wasn't super into horror movies, but he always would sit me down to watch. He would always sit me down to watch Tales from the Crypt all the time, and so that used to scare the shit out of me as a kid.
I only vaguely remember Tales from the Crypt. Like I remember the Crypt Keeper, right? Like
the Crypt
he was like
Keeper,
a Muppet.
Yeah. He was just a Muppet.
Was it one of those like it was like one of those anthology shows, right? Where like he'd come in and he'd like introduce some stuff, and then you'd watch like a little like vignette piece.
Yeah, there would always be at least 1 to 2 episodes, and there, to my knowledge, was 2 to 3 movies. 2 to 3 movies that were made. And oh shit. And to be honest, like from my earliest memory, that's what I remember getting into. But if I had to say movie-wise, my dad had a copy of a great movie, which is also tattooed on my arm for my horror sleeve, is Pumpkinhead. And Pumpkinhead is a horrible 1980s movie. And for some reason, it totally captivated me. And even though it gave me horrible nightmares, and I couldn't sleep with the lights off at all when I was a kid, believe it or not, I was pretty much a wuss for that, for sure. But something about it resonated with me so well, and kind of made me want to get more and more into watching what other things had to offer.
Okay. Man, Nick is having a rough time.
Yeah, Nick
he got Boomer, now there's a Jackie on him. How old were you when you were watching like Tales from the Crypt and this and like Pumpkinhead and stuff?
I was probably 10.
That's not like super
10 years old. No, it wasn't young.
I mean,
my
it's
dad
like 10
was
cents still pretty young for like horror movies.
Yeah, well, and that was the thing though. My dad was a straight, like, he was a country guy. Like, he was a white shirt, denim jeans, cowboy boots kind of guy. And to even have him, like, he would watch shit like Lonesome Dove, which is a what is it? A Western soap opera, pretty much.
Okay.
And like to find out like from his like VHS collection that he has Pumpkinhead, it really like kind of captivated me a bit, being like, oh shit, okay, all right, well, it's who's oh god, okay, it captivated me a bit, and oh shit, the tank, okay, and I was really at that point I was just like, well, if something this cool can be like on a VHS, I wonder what else, and that kind of streamlined me into getting into other horror films. And
Okay.
and honestly, what really got me was the special effects. Even till this day, I more lean towards horror movies that have a lot of makeup work and a lot more care into their creature features and things like that. Something that you can actually see the detail in.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's what got me into wanting to watch older black and white horror movies, more like the Universal monster movies, which I seem to be more inclined to be into nowadays. But
Right.
as far as I can remember, it was Tales from the Crypt and Pumpkinhead was like the one that started it, and it just became like a downslide of 80s slasher films to 1930s, like, Nosferatu and Frankenstein, The Invisible Man. And I think it was more for the fact is that when I was a kid, I was a weird kid. Like, as much as anybody can tell, I was a weird kid. And oh shit. Oh. It was one of those things where I know a lot of people will say the same thing, where it's like you kind of identify with the monsters a bit,
Okay.
and in the wide scheme of things, like Frankenstein was misunderstood.
Sure.
I mean, well, the creature, not Frankenstein, sorry, but it was misunderstood,
Right.
and it kind of made me appreciate the story a little bit more, other than the art aspect that I first started to love. And that got me into wanting to, well, what do these other movies have to offer? And it just really streamlined from there. Like, I can find almost anything to like in a horror movie, but it's so much more than blood, guts, and gore. It's about the humanistic aspect. It's about the story. It's about the art. It's one of those things where that genre clearly defines what I want to kind of see in the world a
Right.
little bit. I know that was probably
that's so interesting because, like, as a person who is not like into horror movies, and never really has been, that's like that never would be, if somebody were to ask me like describe like what horror movies are about and like what people who like them are into, like that's never in a million years where I would have gone of like, oh, it's like the lens on human nature and it's human stories and you like sympathize with the monsters or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, oh yeah, it's just like people who like seeing like people get
Blood,
chopped
guts,
up
and
or
gore.
whatever. Like,
Yeah.
although there is something.
Oh shit! Sorry, just getting tanked.
There is something. This was not. I was never really like this kid, but Russell definitely was. My younger brother Russell definitely was. Where there's a certain type of kid, right, who's like they get obsessed with like a thing, right? So for you it was like horror movies.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Russell, for a while it was like Buzz Lightyear, and then it was like
Got it always.
I think the first thing for him was like he was like super into the Wizard of Oz and like particularly like the Tin Man. So he'd like have like this, he'd like everything was like Tin Man, everything. And then he got into I think we have to get into elevator here, yeah. And then he got into Buzz Lightyear, like when Toy Story came out, and then eventually it was like Phantom of the Opera became the thing, and then from there it was like that's where he went. but I was like, that was never my thing as a kid. Like, I was never one of those kids who got like super obsessively into like one thing. I never had, or at least I don't recall ever having like a phase where it was like my whatever phase.
That's completely understandable. I mean, I know for me, like I liked the same thing other kids liked, of course, but like I had my fair share of wanting Power Rangers and Toy Story and all of that, but something about it was, oh shit, of course. Of course. I just got caught up. Oh no. Oh man, just lost my train of thought. I grew up with those same things as well, but yeah, it's weird when you start like when you're that young. I don't think you really understand what an obsession is, and you're only fixated on something to say like, oh well, I really like this, and I'm going to explore it. And I know when I was a kid, in that day and age of fucking, without the internet, the only thing you could really do is go to the library and look up books. And honestly, I remember just kind of going for it and being like, okay, well, there's this genre called horror, and I want to do everything I can to find out about it. So that's when I started learning about Goosebumps. I started to learn about scary stories to tell in the dark. I started learning about, urban legends and cryptoids like New Jersey Devil and shit like that. And it was just like this whole nother world to me that opened up to being like, oh, there's this weird, creepy world that some people actually don't mind. Like, oh, okay. That some people don't mind, like, actually, that that don't mind to actually get into, and it's not weird to like that. Though it was a little bit weird when I was trying to talk to my friends about all these, like, urban legends and stuff like that. But
they're like, we love Batman, and you're like, you guys know about Leatherface, like.
Yeah,
whatever.
Well, that's the other thing too. Well, and honestly, that kind of like got me into. Speaking of that, horror is what got me into Batman as well. I mean, if you want to like,
sort of a roundabout path to Batman, but I dig it, I guess.
Yeah. When you look at it,
oh, God,
Batman was a pinnacle for messed up villains that had another humanistic element to it, like. Two-Face was a psychotic. He was what most people would identify as a split personality, but medically speaking is not so. But it gives you a little bit of an insight of that. Joker was a psychotic madman that didn't seem to have any type of cure to him, and Scarecrow goes off of fear.
Oh God!
And it was just
That's alright, I wasn't using most of those ribs anyway. It's fine.
Yeah. And it just like it kind of like devolved, and I could go on forever. I mean, it opened up so many doors to look at other things, not only in a horror light, but as like a humanistic light.
So I was gonna say, like, do you find, because it seems like, you said like, oh, it led me, horror led me to Batman, and then you like immediately started talking about the villains. Like, it seems like I don't want to say because that sounds like I'm accusing you of being like a psychopath. I don't want to say that you like resonate with the villains, but it does seem like your interest is more in like the like the complicated human sort of the human aspect of like
absolutely.
I mean, because I think that's pretty. I think a lot of people would agree that like typically in a lot of stuff the villains are always the more interesting characters, right? Because it's like a lot of so often the hero is just like you know, whatever that is there to like beat up the bad guys and save the days, but like the villains
Yeah.
are always the ones who have this like these like complicated or like you know, like tragic backs. I mean, if they're well written, and I assume so. It's like,
Yeah.
I guess is it like the interest in like kind of the examination or the like putting the looking glass up to like human nature and like the human psyche and sort of like these weird
Yeah.
is that sort of like what gravitates you towards stuff, and that's kind of where you get into like horror and everything else?
Yeah, absolutely. Because honestly, I can tell you that when I was a kid and still growing up, it's like nobody knows what they really want to do. And for as long as I've been alive, I've had plenty of different jobs. But the most fulfilling job that I had, I would say that as fulfilling, just being as the most eye-opening, was working in the mental health field, which I was always in tune to try to figure out, not to figure out, but to help and see from the other side. And honestly, that curated into my horror movie aspects, my horror movie love aspects, my ideas of trying to find out what makes somebody actually human or actually them. And it really did that a lot for me. And honestly, yeah, I look at a lot of these things as I want to find out how humans work, how we are as people. And a good way to do that is analyzing, you know, putting yourself through those same kind of aspects, and how better than to maybe kind of reflect with a horror movie, with a comic book. I mean, that's how we get all of our experiences with either outside of literature or film, entertainment, human interactions. And you know, it reminded me, even at a young age, that we're all flawed, and we're all flawed for generally a purpose. Oh no! Get away from me!
Oh, he's behind it.
Yeah, he's good. Okay, all right. That was a little hairy. Sorry, lost train of thought. No, but yeah, I've been always interested, and this even makes it creepier, I know, to really say. I've always been interested into medical anomalies. Wow, that's the second time you got hit by a tank.
They're not fans of me today.
No, I've always been interested in the medical field and psychology and the psychiatric aspect of human ability and human will, and how can genetics affect that? How can life experiences affect that? And it kind of just evolved when I got older. Oh, there's
Witch.
a witch. Oh god damn it!
Are we gonna kill her, or are we gonna run around her?
Let's just kill her. Whatever.
Right.
Let's
kill this jockey first.
Oh,
and
no,
a smoker.
no.
Fuck. All right, he's dead.
Get on. The witches go. Okay.
Oh, Coach, you poor man. All right.
Coach got shit. Coach got shit on for sure. Okay, but yeah, honestly, that was. I know that's maybe a whole runaround of how you get actually there, but
What is interesting? I never would have thought of like somebody who is like maybe like more in tune than your average person with like sort of paying attention to like the psychology of just like human interaction and like empathy and stuff, and like correlating that to like horror movies and everything else. What what specifically did you do in the I'm gonna throw a pipe
bomb. No. Okay.
What specifically did you do when you were like working in the mental health field? Like I know you spent some time kind of.
Oh no!
Oh
no! Well, Tank just fucked up my shit. Actually, what I did. Oh, here, come on, heal me. Damn it!
Here, I got one.
Okay.
Oh, I'm healing myself.
It's a,
there we go.
Yay! Oh,
there's a hunter right there.
Oh
Fuck!
no!
Fuck!
I stared him right in the face.
Let's try this again.
Thank you. Honestly, what I did was I was what they call a behavioral health advocate. So what I would do is anybody that was at a threat of a harm to themselves or others, or had any, let's say, how to properly put it, would have a psychiatric emergency, let's say.
Okay.
I would advise them, talk to them, set up some kind of plan for them, which was called like a wellness plan, to take themselves and maybe get them to notice what some tools they have themselves to help their own mental health, not only with what they had in front of them, but also in terms with medication if so needed, or any type of resources that our great state of New Jersey should have.
Now, is this like in a hospital? Is this in like a
Yeah, this was in a hospital.
Okay.
With New Jersey standard, each county has to have a psychiatric support. So Burlington County, which is actually a pretty big county, has a psychiatric office and or a psychiatric outreach, just like in all the other counties within New Jersey. And the unfortunate part, though, is that, as you know, the county is pretty big, so things get kind of mucked up, and services get squared pretty thin. And when the state budget comes to hand, mental health kind of goes to the wayside. So when you're yourself trying to deal with that, as much as dealing with the general populace of mental health, it gets pretty rough. But those bits and gleams of people that you can actually help and do come back and tell you their story of how you possibly helped them, or you gave them some type of insight that they might not have seen before, is really why I like doing it. And I did it for 6 years.
Yeah. So this is like, so somebody has a psychiatric emergency of some sort, right? Oh shit. They come into the, they're like admitted, they bring themselves to the hospital, or they're admitted to the hospital, or like, so usually they get to the hospital somehow, right?
Yeah, so usually it can happen a few different ways. Either they bring themselves in voluntarily, or police intervention, or somebody outside saying that this person is a danger to themselves or others, and they would like a psychiatric evaluation. Now, that's where it comes in to be kind of hit and miss, because obviously a lot of people don't like going to things against their will.
Right.
But, unfortunately, that is the rules to the state of New Jersey. Some you can help, some you can't. And, not everybody can, okay, how do I'm sorry.
There's like a ladder on this dumpster. Like, it's sort of like here.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, look at me. So not everybody was happy about that, of course.
Right.
But that goes to the terms. It's like you can't help everybody, and it's not our job to help everybody. You can only help people that only want to help themselves to an extent. If you can get them to that point, that's great. But some people aren't it's not their time yet. And you can't force that. That's the one thing that I always believe, that it's like, it takes a lot to look inside yourself and to work on your own mental health with or without medication. And it's a trial and error basis. And it's a long road that, just sometimes won't ever end. Like, it's a constant work. It's constant work. And sometimes telling somebody to be like, you're not always going to get it 100%, and that's okay. And that's what I like to tell people, is like, it's a constant work in progress, and you're gonna fall, but you know what? Every time you fall, you can get back up, and that's what you should be doing.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh
God.
So now this is like, because you went to like art school, right?
Oh yeah.
So this is like, like what kind of training or what kind of like what do you do to prepare like for this job?
So with the state of New Jersey, oh god, there's a jockey. With the state of New Jersey, what you had to have was to become a behavioral health advocate. You would have to be in recovery and good with recovery for at least, I want to say, 6 months. Now that seems like a long time and easy to do, kind of, but it is definitely not. And they did have some other outreach programs that behavioral health advocates could take. One being CRISP, which I don't know if is actually still around or not, but it was a program to kind of better your skills with being an advocate for people in psychiatric distress, and it was actually pretty eye opening and pretty nice to attend, not only for myself but for others as well. And to believe it or not, it's really not that much to it's not that much to uh, oh shit, I'm yelling coach. Okay, uh, it's not that much to actually be a part of it. You just kind of have to go within the mindset that you're gonna see a lot of individuals, a lot of different individuals, and you're gonna see a lot of different people. But as long as you're there, to help, that's your main goal. To help
Right.
as much as you can. Let it be a listening ear, or to provide some sort of services, consolement, empathy. It's a long range of things. It's not just reading from a book and being like, well, you have this problem, now you need to do this. A lot of 9 times out of 10, I would tell a lot of people, it's not about your prescribing a medication and seeing if it works. It's a lot about listening and empathy, and really, just a lot of times that's what people wanted. They wanted an ear to talk to, and I did that for 6 years. And I heard a lot of different stories, and it actually it made me look within inside myself a lot of the time too. It made me have a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah.
And I believe it was a good part in my life to really get a hold of and to actually do.
It does seem like something that's like I've always thought people in like the mental health field um, need like a special kind of like emotional fortitude to like be in that be in that field. Yeah, like it seems like the type of thing that must like take a toll on you, right? Is that like
definitely.
that sort of why you like you moved on from that eventually? Is it kind of the type of thing where you had to make a change, or like what's the thing that kind of inspired you to like to move away from that?
Yeah, honestly, after 6 years, 6 years is a lot to deal with. All sides of the spectrum of psychiatric emergencies, and to be honest, it wasn't always just psychiatric either. A lot of the times, it was. Sometimes it could have even been prison transfers. I've seen within my career as a behavioral health advocate, I have seen 3 people that have actually murdered somebody.
Oh.
And have gotten to talk to them, and that was, of course, with my morbid curiosity side, it was interesting.
Sure.
But on the other side, it's also very eye opening. As much as I would like to get into it, I don't think I could actually foretell.
I mean, I'm sure there's like legal ramifications, and then
there's HIPAA stuff, but
and I mean, just in general, it's like you don't want to like.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to invade people's right to like be respected
privacy,
and not have to be like talked about or. I guess.
But it was that intense. That was the most intense.
Right.
Instances that I've been a part of is like just straight up murder, and to actually talk to somebody though about that, it was pretty eye opening, because you kind of got to see inside their own head.
Right.
And some of these people, for whatever reason they might have done it, it was their reason to do so. But it was one of those things where it's like in that situation, it makes you think that like, okay, I might have my own convictions, but I have to put those aside
Right.
and talk to this person as not saying that they're not human beings, but talk to them as in
But
like a
you have an
professional.
obligation to like to help them, right? Like
Yes,
regardless
yeah,
of.
yeah. Regardless of anything they have done or do, even within the time that I've seen them. I mean, within that 6 years, I've been choked, thrown around, uh, fecal matter thrown at this shit, all that type of stuff.
Jesus,
Yeah,
that's
so
crazy. Like, I
yeah,
guess
yeah,
I was imagining like, so my own experiences with like doing like therapy and talking to a therapist and stuff just about, um, like depression and anxiety and stuff like that. So like, I guess
yeah.
my image in my head of like what we've been talking about this whole time has been sort of based like framed around my experience with that, which is like you go into like a little office with like a nice person and you sit down on a couch and you like talk about feelings for an hour, but like holy shit, like that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah. No. Within this kind of type of stuff, it within a quote unquote psychiatric emergency, it's more dire and it's more like upfront. So this person could come in to our facilities completely, uh, off their medication,
Right.
suicidal, homicidal, and you kind of got to work. You kind of got to work with the flow. You kind of got to read their signals, kind of put on a different face to maybe what they respond to a little bit more, and it's really kind of making yourself a chameleon to the situation.
Right.
And it takes a lot out of you. It's not for everybody. It
Yeah.
definitely is not. But
I can imagine it must be like it's just like there's got to be
but
such a toll.
yeah, I told everyone though. It's like everybody. There's a lot of people that would ask me. I was like, "Do I regret it?" And I was like, "Absolutely not." Because the one thing is that those few that came back to me or that I've heard of that have actually been successful in their treatment, or turned over a new leaf, or just honestly trying their absolute best, made me feel 10 times better, and that's what really made it like all really worth it. 10 million
Right.
bad things could happen to me, and I was like, I don't really care. Like, it's whatever. But oh shit,
Oh,
oh
more
shit.
coming.
Oh, retrieve the
We
cola.
have to get something right
Retrieve the cola.
now.
Okay. But you know what? That's really what made it worth it for me,
Yeah.
and it made me keep going. And it definitely, when I decided to leave, it wasn't for the sake of the job or the people. I just felt like I gave enough of my time that maybe I need to move on, and maybe I
Right.
need to start looking at other avenues that I can excel at.
Right.
And but it definitely made me more eye open to New Jersey standards, to mental health, my own mental health, and God forbid if I ever come up to a situation where uh, that would have to be used again. Who knows? Uh, I definitely learned from it, and it's another life experience that I can definitely take with me from all the other life experiences that I've had so far.
It certainly seems like something that like you can't possibly do that for that long and not come away with some stuff that is
A few scars.
well, yeah, a few scars, but but also things you can kind of put to. But we got to get the hell out of this building. Put to use in like for the rest of your life. But it is
Oh, yeah.
like it's good. I'm like glad that you like
Oh,
sort of
no,
had
sorry.
the presence of mind to or like this the self-awareness to like make the call of like, okay, it is time to move on from this
Yeah,
and not
definitely.
not stay in something too long that's gonna bugger. Oh, he's got me.
Got it.
I'm just gonna run for this guy's
Yeah.
shack or whatever.
Oh no. Get off me. Oh no, a tank.
Oh crap.
I'm pummeled.
Coming back, I'm gonna hit him with the coke.
Hit him with the coke. Oh, I'm down. Coach, get me. Somebody, Nick. Get me out of here.
I don't think I can take out my gun with this soda. Hopefully I haven't been like wasting my time this whole time just beating people with the soda.
Let's go.
I'm gonna run for it.
Okay. But yeah,
the sooner we turn this buzzer off, the less fast these guys stop coming.
Okay, Nick, why are you trying to help me right now? I'm trying to run. I get it. Thank you.
Oh, there's so many.
Oh yeah. God. Who thought this was a good idea to talk and play this? But what were you talking about? Yeah. You know what? Yeah, I came out with a more humanistic approach, and honestly, it kind of fit to me. It kind of melded my personality and what I wanted to be as a person a little bit more. It kind of solidified that for me. I as a person, I put on people that know me, and Matt here, you specifically. I put on a face, just like, oh god damn it. Okay. I put on a face just like anybody else does. Sure. And one of those things I do is I like to use humor, but the other part of that is I've always loved making people laugh, and I always wanted to be one of those people to, if one of my friends needed an ear to listen to, or just wanted to talk, I always wanted to be one of those people to be like, you know what, I don't care what time it is, I don't care what day it is. If you got the time, I got the time too. I don't care. Like, and because I've always grown up to kind of wanting that for myself and wanting to surround people like that for myself. Right. And, you know, you don't know, like, everybody's going through something, and everybody goes through tons of different things, and to just have one person to be available can make such a difference.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to be at least that person, and to always be available and always be upfront and honest. And, you know, working in that field just kind of solidified that a little bit more for me.
Right.
And it made me truly like think like, yeah, this is definitely the kind of person I want to be.
Oh god, Jockey. Okay. Well, so I want to I'm down. I want to backtrack. There was something I wanted to like. We had like two ways we could have gone when we were talking a while ago.
I'm going to pack myself up.
I'm an open book.
And nothing super deep yet. Just we got we took the horror, the love of horror movies in the sort of like psychology direction. The other direction that I wanted to like branch off of the horror movie stuff with that, because it was you talked a lot about the I don't know where we're supposed to be going right now, by the way.
I don't know either, 'cause I'm following you.
The other thing you were talking about was like the way that a lot of the like practical effects and monster design and like the artistic side of like horror movies and stuff like that had really appealed to you. And I know, so like obviously I know, and for anyone listening, like you're a very like artistic person. You do a lot of you do a lot of like drawing. You
I doodle.
You doodle.
I doodle. Let's be honest. I doodle.
I mean, call it what you will. I mean, but you did a whole series of like of art pieces that you like put up at Sam's shop and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So like, I mean, for as long as I've known you, like being like an artist has been a huge part of like your identity, or at least like the identity that, as I interpret it anyway.
Oh yeah. No, definitely.
Was that, did like art and stuff like that, did that all sort of come about, when you were like really young, like around the same time as like the horror stuff? Like when did you kind of start, discover that you like you had an interest in art and you had like an ability.
Yeah, honestly, it did. My mom, you know, oh, how to put this how to put this safely. My mom, my mom, you know, she did maybe the best that she could in the situation that we were in which I would get, like, you know, when you were a kid, there's those like kind of like play art sets kind of thing. Like I got those a lot with no intention, I think, of my mom really thinking of like, oh, I'll do anything with them. But I kind of just went with it, and
Right.
you know, when I started getting, you know, a little bit more interested into like, well, you know, watching cartoons, and I was like, well, how did they actually do that? Watching Ren and Stimpy, and like, oh, well, somebody actually draws that. Like, well, maybe I could draw like Ren and Stimpy, or you
Right.
know, Dragon Ball Z characters or something of the sort. I remember when I was a kid, I had one friend that used to like sit down. We watched Dragon Ball Z all the time, and we would try to draw the characters like line for line.
I feel like
And
that's got it. That's like, I feel like if you asked like every kid in America that I know about who like in like their adulthood is like has artistic ability that they've fostered, like I feel like everybody's story at some point includes like, yeah, I drew Dragon Ball Z characters all the time, like, right? Because I'm the same way. Like there was probably a solid portion from like maybe like 6th, 7th grade through like early high school where like that was it. Like my like the pinnacle of artistic achievement was to draw like fucking
like, I could draw Goku. I could draw Vegeta and Goku, even though they just look pretty much the same. Oh shit! There's a witch. There's a witch. Here, but yeah, honestly, learning like from a lot of my other friends that they ended up kind of with the same aspect. Like it was crazy to think like, oh no, this was a normal thing. Like if you were into art, like you would draw your favorite characters. You would draw like something that you were familiar with, and it kind of just stemmed from there. Where I was just like, okay, well if I can draw somebody else's characters, why not like try to draw my own fucking characters?
Mm-hmm.
And why don't I try, like, you know, oh, well, I like monsters. Why don't I try to draw, you know, my own monster? And that kind of, like, just dwelled into it. Like, I still remember it's not only just monsters that I would like to draw. I still to this day, I love Renaissance. I love the Renaissance period for paintings.
Okay.
Only because something about those pieces. I remember when I was a kid, it was the shadows and the stark black that they used, and the lighting that would really emanate human features, like the human figure itself. And I really resonated with that. Something really popped out to me, and of course, to this day, I cannot do anything of the sort.
Right.
I can't draw people. I'll tell you right now, I can't draw people worth the shit. But I can definitely appreciate art for what it is. And one of those things where it's just like, well, you know, well, if they use those types of styles, why can't I like maybe cohort that kind of style into what I like? And I still strive to this day to read up as much as possible different techniques and styles of the Renaissance period and how that was actually achieved. And something about it is just so interesting. And that again kind of goes to that humanistic side where I would read into artists and read their kind of story and being like, what were they as people? Like, what made them want to make this like, kind of artwork? And what were they struggling with? What did they love? What did they not love? And it really becomes all together when I thought about it when I was a kid, like how all this kind of intermingles with who I am.
Right. So we said before, so you did go to art school.
Yes. I went to an art high school.
Art high school?
Yes, I went to an
I've
art
never
high school.
heard of an art high school. What is an art high school?
Yeah, so I went to, if anybody's listening and never knows, I went to a little art high school in Dayton, Ohio, where I'm from.
Shout out to Dayton, Ohio.
Shout out to Dayton, Ohio. Called Stivers. And Stivers was different for that school district, being that it was purely an art school, meaning that not only just visual arts, but you could go for creative writing, you could go for dance, you could go for ceramics, you could do pretty much anything that you want. But the only thing is that to get into this high school, or to get into the school, you would have to try out for it. Like, I had to take a test, and I had to do a standstill portrait of objects on a table, and then at that point they would tell me within a week or two if I was accepted or not. And that was, honestly, as a kid, that was the hardest thing I think I ever did at that point in my life. Because that was so nerve-wracking to think, like, to try to think about having the self-confidence to be like, no, I can do this, I can definitely excel at this. And you know what, going to that high school, I went for visual arts, so I was one of the drawing kids. And the cool thing about that school was, it not only taught you all the academics that you needed to, but it also taught you art history. It taught you about steel working, like using plasma cutter, using going to ceramics class, and that school really tried to set you up to, once you were finished with high school, to go on to an art college, or figure out something of kind of something to do within your field. I know a few people now that I used to go to that high school with, that are doing like great things within the art community, and museums, a lot of things that they went to school for, and it's great to see. And it really just made you feel like art had a purpose at that point in time. Like, it wasn't just a thing that, you did in your bedroom, and you might show your 5 close friends.
Right.
It was something that really made me appreciate art a lot more, and made me learn a lot. And we were always entering into art contests. We had to, for our final exam at the end of the year, we always had to do an art project that we were working on for that whole year. So they definitely didn't let up on the fact that you had to pull your own weight while you were there. This is not just to dick around and draw. This is, no, you gotta expand your skills, and you gotta work for a goal. And it was great. I would suggest to anybody, I mean, if they do have that opportunity, to definitely do. In this day and age, with how the internet rolls around, I mean, there is numerous amounts of YouTube videos and online tutorials to learn about, art itself, and like just the fundamental basics of art. And it was just nice for me to have professors and teachers to actually like give me that.
Right. Now, like,
so it was fun.
Does an art high school still have, like, do you still take like standard class, like, do you still take like math and history and crap like that? Like,
Yep.
So I guess what's the swarmed here. What's the like? Because I took art and then like advanced placement art when I was in high school, just as like electives or whatever. Like, what is at like an art high school? What is the difference there? Like, what's the ratio of, like, do you just have like a lot more different art classes? Like, are you taking more art than standard like core curriculum, whatever?
Yeah, so you would have your core classes, and then you would be placed into what you pretty much auditioned for, is that you would have a subset of classes. So I auditioned for the visual arts part of the school. So with visual arts, that included my my actual drawing class. It did with ceramics, steel work, like welding, stuff like that.
Oh, damn.
Oh no! Oh no! You're down. Oh, somebody help her! I can't. Okay, but yeah. So visual arts encompass ceramics, steelwork, standard drawing stuff, photography, anything under the sun. They really wanted to push that.
There's a witch in there.
It's not just okay. They really wanted to push that you just didn't draw. They wanted you to find what you were good at,
Right.
and that was the cool thing. Like, hey, if you found out that doing visual arts, you're better at ceramics, definitely go for it. You can excel at that, and they would have different advancements for that, like ceramics 1, 2, 3, like depending on your skill level, and then they kind of like followed you throughout the year. I just damn it. Okay, but yeah, that's really how the high school went. And like you would have your extracurricular, you would have your standard classes, but then by the end of the day, by the end of the school day, you would have your visual, like either depending on what you went for, you had your other stuff. And the cool thing about that too was the school that I went to was a year-round school. So the thing about that is that it would be school kind of all the time, but we would get, I think we would go to school for a month, if I remember it correctly. We would go to school for a month and then have a break for 2 weeks. And then there would be a time where instead of having a, like, say, 3-month summer break, we'd have, like, maybe a month or 2 break, and then we'd go right back to school. And so it kind of kept everything, honestly, oh, shit, okay. It would kind of make everything stay fresh for me. Where are you? I'm full of boomer slime.
Yeah, me too. And I went to like hide in a corner to like wait out the boomer slime, and they all came busting through a door in the corner that I put myself in.
That was my fault. I saw the boomer and I was like, probably shouldn't have done that.
I'm feeling right.
But yeah, it wasn't. It was good. I always did appreciate it. Maybe if I didn't at that point in time in my life, I did. But yeah, and that honestly gave me a. Where's the alarm? Okay,
I'm heading.
That kind of gave me the tools to kind of go forward and go to the Art Institute for college, and to kind of expand that a little bit more.
And what's your degree, your college degree, like actually?
It was visual effects and motion graphics.
Okay.
So pretty much my professor, I always try to tell people, what that means is like, you remember the movie Atlantis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my professor was actually the head visual effects artist for that movie. And he had all the awards right there in his office to remind you that, hey, I worked on Atlantis. But, like, that was kind of the bit where Atlantis actually made... Atlantis was one of those movies that actually made a big, like, stride in motion graphics. And, oh, damn it, smoker. Okay.
I'm gonna get killed trying to get to the damn... Yep.
I'm coming. Coach, get the fuck out of the way, man. Okay.
He's got
somebody help her out. Oh. Alright. But, alright. But, yeah, Atlantis was one of those things where it really pushed the envelope for what animation was doing at that point in time, and special effects. And you could really see it once he showed you bits and pieces of the work that he did. It was interesting. It was definitely interesting. Obviously, I am not using any bit of that for.
I was gonna be my next question was like, because I know you're
I'm
doing
not
like
using any of
office furniture stuff. I was like,
Yes.
does
yes.
that play in at all? Like,
You know what? To a degree, I do a lot of model work. I do
Okay.
use. I actually a couple of my coworkers actually went to the Art Institute themselves as well, and we do use a bit of the same programming to in the field. So for anybody out there, you probably, if you are privy to this, you
those are
probably
rich.
would understand. Like we use 3ds Max, we use Blender, we use all types of visualization programs to manipulate 3D models and and kind of animation work as well. So to a degree, I do use it a little bit, but it's very far in between.
Right.
I'm more on I am more on the programming side of making sure information works with inside a program that I have, stupid knowledge about, which probably nobody should have about, since it's pretty boring. But yeah, I do use it to a degree, but not
Okay.
as much as I think I would ever actually end up using it.
One thing for me, so I, like I mentioned, I took like APR classes or whatever in college.
Yeah.
But other than that, or in high school rather. But other than that, I'm 100% just like self-taught, self-practiced. For me, and
Look at that. You're 10 times better than I am.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yo, come on now. Come on now.
Well, and here's the thing though. Like, I could be the best artist or whatever or designer in the world. Like, for me, and like this is the main. I'm like, I have one health. I'm like, I can't walk any faster than this. For me, like, I mean, I've always like considered myself a creative type or whatever.
Yeah.
And everything else, but like the creative process and like making, whether it be like a painting or like making something, for me has always come with this like such a like taxing amount of anxiety that like it's the reason I was never able to really seriously pursue it as like a career or like anything that would like really make any like money necessarily, because like I just I don't know, is that all right, coach, closing the door on me, shithead. Is that just like me? Is that something you like that resonates with you? Like,
no, I mean, still. Okay, come on, everybody.
Just close the door.
Come on, fucking close the door. But no, that's definitely. I mean, look at it. You gotta look at it kind of like when I started school and started doing all this, and even still to this day, avenues are opening up way more for creatives and people who do art to get their stuff out there and to be seen and to be known and even bought. But back then, it wasn't a thing that I thought like ever like, oh, I'm gonna make a shit ton of money and I'm gonna be fucking famous. Like, no, it was more, I kind of tried to take it more as like, no, this is a time to learn. This is a time to, find what I might really want to do. And hey, if I get lucky and with possible connections or people that I know, maybe something can happen of it. But I never thought in a lifetime that, oh, I'm gonna make a fucking $1 million and be a world famous artist. And honestly, even to this day, I don't think I would ever even want that. I don't know what to do with notoriety or recognition. I am completely a person that was just like, I'd rather be in the shadows.
Right.
like for instance, as you saw, like a lot of my art Instagram kind of stuff is I don't like to show my face. I like to be faceless. And and that's not because like, oh, I'm trying to be edgy and trying to be cool, but it's more of like, I don't really care for, you know, I don't really think it's necessary to show myself to
Right.
like I could talk about myself probably all day, but that's really boring to me and really not cool, I think. But
So I guess my question then is: are you Banksy? Is that what you're trying to tell me right now?
no, fuck no, fuck no. That guy has way more recognition than I ever could. But oh god, I remember this. Oh, the fucking
yeah,
gas
fill up
tanks.
this car. Yep.
Oh, Jesus Christ! I remember
Wait here in this mall and
So
But,
since we're
yeah.
there's something I definitely like. I want to make sure we talk about we're here, and I think like the length of the recording and where we are in this whatever you call this thing here is good.
Okay.
That, like we can get to like the end of this will coincide with like a great stopping point for the for the recording.
All right.
But the thing that I definitely want to talk about, and again, like I am clearly not like a practice interviewer, as like all of these like conversation topic change are super goddamn abrupt. Like
no.
It was like, hey, I know we were having a full ass conversation about something else, but like let's talk about this completely different thing now.
No, see, this is what I like though. I like it. I like it being on the fly. It keeps things fresh.
Keeps it fresh.
Keeps it fresh.
I did want to talk about it because we've sort of touched on it
I know
a number of times, but we've never really like gotten into it, and I'm interested to hear about it, and I think it's something that is interesting, probably for anybody to hear about. It's one of the things that when I came up with this whole concept for a video series where I would talk to people who have these how everybody has a unique life experience and their own story to tell, and everybody's story is interesting. It was one of the reasons I knew very early on. I was like, oh, I really want to talk to Kurtis. So I know that for a period of time, you were homeless.
Yes, that is true. I was a homeless kid.
So I guess how did that happen? How did you become homeless? And I guess let's start there. How do you become homeless?
Yeah, I know it sounds strange. To anybody listening, I know it sounds as strange as it sounds, but honestly, what ended up happening is, and I don't care about talking about this, so I'm sorry for anybody that might make this uncomfortable, but so when I was, it's been so long, when I was either 14 or 15, my mother decided to leave, and she decided to leave on her own fruition to go live with her significant other within Arizona.
Okay.
And so my mother at that point in time gave me a choice. She was like, either you can come with me and kind of deal with the how to put it, deal with the mental upsets. I guess you would call it the mental upsets,
being
again.
Uprooted and relocated, and all that.
Yeah, and also with my own mom's mental health problems herself and all to deal with. She was like, you could either stay here or come with me. And so, okay. My choice was kind of made for me at that point. And everybody's
that's a full-on tank.
Yeah. I shot that fucking thing to shit. Okay. Get out of here. Okay. Sorry. I knew this was gonna be hard when we were talking about this. But yeah, so she gave me the two choices, and being that young by myself, I had a good support system. I had a couple friends that were like, you know what? If you don't want to do this, nobody's forcing you to. You can come live with us. And so I was still going to school, and I was close to finishing, and I kind of said to myself, I was like, I would love to try to stick it out where I am, figure out my life, and unfortunately, while that happened, I have to grow up. I had to like try to tell myself like this is a time where I have to grow up, and things are going to be drastically different. So I took the chance of my mom leaving and her not, unfortunately, really caring, and kind of being on my own. And unfortunately, though, how things ended up was I couldn't go to the same school because I was out of district, apparently. My mom had to pull me out of school, unfortunately, which I was not really too keen of. But there was nothing I could do. And I got a job. Like, I had a job beforehand, but I just started to work and fill up my time. And, as all things do, things come to an end. Me and that friend that provided the shelter for the meantime, oh no, a friend at that time, we kind of faded apart. Oh man, everybody is just screwed right now. Jesus Christ. Oh no.
Oh, God, you're all the way up there. All right, hang on.
Yeah. So me and my friend drifted apart, unfortunately, and at that point, it wasn't even a year that my mom left that I ended up being on my own. I was like, okay, well, now I am now a 15-year-old boy that has to figure out what I'm going to do for. At that point, I thought for the rest of my life. So what ended up happening was I kind of became a transplant, and for a while I moved around the streets of Dayton. I did the pretty much homeless thing that everybody sees on TV or hears about, and sleeping on the streets, sleeping at random friends' houses, couch surfing from here to there. And for that period of time in my life, things got pretty dark. I'm not gonna lie. A good part of my life was set up with drug abuse and just figuring out ways to kind of cope with myself. And I think it became prevalent to myself when, oh my God damn it. Kind of became more familiar to myself after doing a shit ton of drugs and not figuring out where my life wanted to go. That I finally decided for myself that I needed to move. I needed to leave, and I needed to try to better myself. So one drunken stupor, and after a night of underage drinking in a local bar called the Top Hat, and a shitload of unnecessary cocaine.
Jesus, okay.
I decided to leave.
Oh crap!
The next day, and start traveling south. And at that point, I left Ohio and I traveled to Kentucky. I went to Tennessee, and I ended up in Florida, Gainesville, Florida. And it was a crazy time. I was hitching rides. When the time got enough to where I could actually get myself a license, I did so. And God damn it, this was probably the worst level to talk about.
Well, they're all real bad at the end.
Yeah. Oh, just let me die. God damn it. Oh, I'm biled on too. Shit. Oh man. Okay. Let me regroup here. Okay. After figuring out, well, things are never going to be the same, and I need to separate myself from friends that are still in the drug game and don't really want to pursue that path with me. I have to do something. And honestly, the time from when I was starting to be homeless to traveling across the United States, I saw a lot of unfortunate stuff. Not only my drug addiction, but seeing my own friends. I've had a few friends overdose and actually die. I've been in a bathroom with one of my friends that OD'd before. I've had plenty of friends succumb to that kind of lifestyle, and to be honest, that was kind of the final straw. Okay, and I'm dead.
Oh no.
But that was kind of that was kind of the final straw that broke the camel's back to me, where I was like, something has to change, and another one of those instances was I did have a dog, my husky Rufus, which, if my wife or a lot of my other friends or some of my other friends are listening, will understand that Rufus was a big part of my life. And once he passed away from me living on the streets, that was a huge toll on me, even because I felt like it was my fault, and if I can't take care of the one friend that I had, how can I take care of myself? And it's still a kind of a haunting moment for me till today. I mean, as you know, like, I have two small dogs,
Right.
and I love animals. I love animals to death. I never understand how anybody could hurt an animal.
Anybody know who?
And that just kind of stuck with me. And after that, with everything else accumulated, I felt like I had to leave. And you know what? A lot of people do ask me, like, do I regret it? Do I regret being homeless? Do I regret the decisions that I've made? And you know what? I don't. And it's all kind of going back to what we talked about, where it's like, we all have things going on in our lives, and we all strive for some humanistic experience or some humanistic connection. And all those experiences and all those goods and bads kind of thing, like, they shape me to be the person that I am today. And I understand that I've come a long way from being the homeless 14, 15-year-old all the way up to 19.
Right.
Struggling to find shelter, to find food, to get a job, to pursue my GED once I was able to get some stable housing at one point. I made a lot of steps that I didn't know would really work out for me in the end, but it was something that I felt like I needed to do. I needed to experience that. Like, I didn't let it stop me from trying to be who I was.
Right.
And it was a wild ride. Like, I of course have tons of instances between hobo fires, having hobo fires in squat, so, like, squat houses.
Yeah.
Squatter houses, being robbed, being held at knife point, gunpoint, being put in dicey situations. I could Sam, my wife Sam, she's probably gonna be laughing, because normally I only end up talking about these when I'm drinking. But it's good to tell these stories while sober as well. But I honestly, it kind of made me more human, if it makes sense.
Well,
like,
I was gonna say, like, it's and I knew like a little bit of this, maybe, just from
I don't
being,
talk about it a lot.
friends for
Yeah,
the past few years, but like,
I don't talk about it a lot at all.
Yeah, but like, one of the things that is crazy is, like, from like the time that, like, from the first time I met you, like when we were playing D&D at our friend who's since moved away, their house, and you came and, like, oh Jesus.
Oh shit! You got a jockey on?
Yeah, you came to like, maybe play some D&D and like join the group or whatever. Like, my first impression of you, and like, my first impression of you has like, in a lot of ways, been a lot of people you like your first impression, and then you like kind of get to know them better, and you see how they're different than their first impression. But like, my first impression of you was that you're just sort of this like, kind of quiet, kind of like a little shy, like super, super nice, like have a huge, like just a huge heart, like just this like teddy bear of a human. And like, I've known you for a few, like, several years now, and like, I don't, like, my opinion has really not changed much. Like, you just
Well,
like, you're just like this, incredibly like gentle person. So it's just like, it's just like crazy to me that you're like, to reconcile like the Kurtis that I know with, you're like, yeah, hobo fires, and I've been I've got in knife fights. Like, Jesus Christ, it's just like, it's crazy. And I guess it's like, it sort of makes you think.
You know what? Yeah, you know what? That's, oh shit. Okay. Oh no. We will. Oh no. All right. Hold on.
I think we lost again.
Yep, I think we lost again. Whatever. God damn it.
We're not going to complete this before we stop the recording, but that's okay. It's,
but
as we said, this is way harder to do while like having a full conversation.
Full, like, yes. But you know what? You're not the first person to say those things, and I've taken that from a lot of people, and I've kind of tried to self-reflect that for myself. And I think what it comes up to be is that I personally just I want to show people that, I might been through rough and tumbled and rugged things, and it definitely does show in different aspects of my life. But as it's a way that I am with people, and to my relationships with people, I always wanted to be good. And I always want to be, like I was saying before, I always want to be that person that somebody can lean on. And
anybody got any ideas?
Of course, there is this hard exterior that I have, and I put up walls just like anybody else. But I always wanted to make sure that me being homeless is not what defines me, and those things are not what I would say disable me. There are things that gave me a different perspective, and it gave me more of a feeling for humanity. Like, I always, one of the things for me is, like, I always give somebody the benefit of the doubt the first time out the door. Like, I will always give somebody a chance. Do we drop the server? No. Okay, we're good.
So good.
I will always give somebody the benefit of the doubt. But that's the other thing, though, too. If I'm close friends with somebody and say that, just like with anybody else, if you've been burned too many times, like, I am typically a person that will be like, okay, well, I'm going to, okay, I'm trying to help. No, I don't want to heal. Oh, God damn it. I'm trying to heal you, Nick.
I'm up top. My new strategy is I'm taking the gas cans, and instead of bringing them one at a time back to the car, I'm taking all the gas cans from the top and throwing them off the edge to the first floor.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm trying to do. But I'm one of those people too that were just like, if you do something that is completely ass backwards to me and really hurtful and really just like damn right just like not human, stealing, any of like the real major sins, then I am completely okay with shutting somebody out, like completely putting up a wall and being like, okay, well, I don't need you in my life and I don't want to deal with that. Okay, bye. And I know a lot of people can't do that, but I have always, unfortunately, I wouldn't say Yeah, I wouldn't say like greatly, but unfortunately, been able to do that, and uh, you know, that kind of hinders your ability to have a relationship sometimes because I am not always too easy to forgive and forget, and because I always believe in the aspect, even with being homeless and growing up, it was like, you know what, you give respect. The respect you give is something that should be given back. And if it's not given back, it should be a conversation to see, like, maybe why is it not given back? Is something going on? It's always opening up that bit of communication. And if, okay, all right, that.
Oh, he's down.
Oh, no, God damn it, a jockey! God damn it. Okay, but I gotta heal. Okay, but yeah, you know, growing up homeless for majority of my teenage years, that kind of solidified that a little bit more, being that you can only trust so many people when you're out and about and you don't know anybody, and you kind of form that relationship of a family setting. Like for the longest time, I didn't have a family. I didn't have anybody to really console in and to really talk to. And so once you're traveling around and you get to know some people, like that's all you have. And if some of those people kind of turn on you in the wrong end, it kind of makes it a little bit hardened, and that kind of just always stuck with me. And it's something that I like to work on. I should probably work on a bit more. I definitely know I have flaws of my own, but you know, it's not always rainbows and sunshine that I took from it. But I always try to perceive that. I always try to put out the good more than the bad. What I've learned from being homeless, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you get punched every time I. Oh no! I threw a gas can onto a thing. I don't know where I can get it. I don't know if I can get it again. It seems like you took sort of the. You took the the ability to have kind of a different understanding of like people and humanity. You kind of boosted your empathy stat from your experience. Without like I'm about to get killed. Without getting I mean, because it's I'm like dead.
Yeah, you're dead.
Okay. But I did throw like 10 gas cans on the floor before I died, so maybe I can get out this time. It seems like you've sort of taken the right. If that's the weird thing to say, I guess, but like the right thing from your experiences, where like you seem to have like an extra strong sense of like empathy and ability to understand people and communicate with people.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wouldn't say that you talking about if somebody like wrongs you or whatever, you have an ability to like hold a grudge or whatever. Like, I haven't gone through half as much like crazy shit as you have, and like I'll hold a grudge like you wouldn't believe. I think if that's like the worst thing you brought you took out of it, I think that's pretty damn good.
I mean, we could talk about things like Sam will tell you, like when I met Sam in Philadelphia. When we met each other, I had nothing to my name at all. I had a bin of stuff. It took me. I'm 30 years old now.
Yeah.
It took me a while to finally realize that, like, hey, it's okay again. It's okay to have stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, I didn't want anything, and still to this day, I'm not a very
materialistic.
Yeah, I'm not a very materialistic person. I will wait and wait and wait on something until I believe it's right to even buy something. and that's one of those things where it's just like I always felt like the more stuff you have, the harder it is to get up and leave.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was always on the move, and that feeling of like I need to go, I need to leave, I need to just leave. It was a hard thing to break away from, and it's still kind of a hard thing to break away from, but not to the extent of what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And there's small things like that. Like for now, like for instance, now I now hate things that are super duper dirty. I can't deal with my house being like in a fucking huge ass clutter or like dirt and grime and shit because I lived in that for so long. If I have the ability not to, I'd rather do that. I know
Right.
that's like a simple thing to think about, but you know when you're stuck in that kind of situation
Sure.
where you're not knowing when you're going to shower next or when you're going to get when you're going to get when you're going to get the next bath. Like I remember having to bathe in restaurants and gas stations, even a water fountain at one point.
Wow.
I don't ever really want to go through that, and that's the other thing that maybe is also a fear for other people that have been homeless is that I never want to be homeless again, and I will do everything in my goddamn power. You better believe it to make sure that that will never happen. And some people might think it's like in some extremes of either saving money or thinking about a situation that might affect me financially or for the rest of my life a little bit more than what other people would do. And it's tiresome to an extent. Like I believe I make my wife super duper tired all the time being should we do that? What about this? What about that? Well, if we do this, then that happens. If we don't do this, then this happens. And it's a give and take. It really is. A lot of times I find myself very tired and almost like I'm not able to relax. And it's a lot of give and take. And glad now though in my life that I'm able to relish in some of the possessions that I do have and kind of let go of those things of being able to say that, oh well, I can buy myself something or I can spend money on doing something or I can keep collectibles for myself and you know, having some materialistic things aren't so bad.
Yeah.
And it took a long time to do that. Absolutely a long time. Like I said, like I'm 30 years old now. It's it's been a long time.
I mean, it certainly. I mean, it seems like, of course, you have a perspective that I think not a lot of people get of like having nothing, right? So like, of course, you value what you do have more than maybe the the average person would. Oh, cool, Nick. All right, I'm like down. He just like he walked over, looked at me, and then was like, "Ah, you're fine," and then just ran away.
There you go. Well, it's all down to Nick.
It is all down to Nick.
Yeah, but you know what? I would like to hope that I have that perspective. But my main goal, like we said from the beginning of this podcast, is that I always want to put that perspective towards others and help as much as possible, and to just hopefully be that friend that is somebody to listen to and to help and to possibly make feel better. All the time when I'm hanging out with you guys, the Tabletop Legends people or Wednesday group, I always try to be the best part of myself and to hopefully make somebody smile, because that's what I always wanted in my life, even from the point of being a kid to homelessness to where I am now. Is nothing is better than, I feel like, being around some people that you care about and some people that care about you, and to make them feel good and to always make somebody feel good. Even though sometimes for myself that's not always the case, and I can't always make myself feel good, but as long as I could do that for somebody else, that's what really I care about.
I mean, I think that's I think it would be super easy to I got AFK'd, I guess. It would be super easy. I think this is a good place to kind of wrap up.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take another whack at this. We can just hang out in the room here.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do like 10 more sit down recording sessions talking about some of the stuff, just like life stuff. It would be so easy, I feel like, to have somebody tell a story, including some of the elements of the things that like have been in your life with such a different outcome. So like I find it very like very inspiring, to hear you say like these are these are the things I've been through in my life. These are my like the struggles that I've had, the things that are in my past, and like to know you now, as just like such a kind-hearted person who's just like deep down just maybe one of the most like empathetically like connected people that I know.
Oh, thank you.
It's just cool. And again, I said this at the end of my first recording. This is the second one of these. And I said this at the end of my first recording, and I'm saying it again now. It's like I'm so glad that I like decided to do this, because I keep leaving these conversations being like just like incredibly blown away by sort of the new perspective I take away from from the folks that I sit down with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're a brand new father, which we haven't mentioned.
At
this point. So
yes.
I mean,
that's a whole other conversation.
That's another conversation, and I'm gonna harangue Sam into this as well at some point, because I want to talk to her, especially about like Wiccan stuff and crystals and all the shit that she's into that I don't understand at all. I want to hear about from her.
Definitely.
But I mean, I've said it a bunch of times now, but obviously, like, congratulations to both of you, and it's super cool to hear, like, you have these like certainly a more like your character backstory is more interesting than mine. And I think you like you're like I'm like weirdly, even though I have no reason to like have this emotion, I'm like weirdly proud of you. which is like a weird thing to think, but it's just like,
oh man,
I'm just like I guess I'm just like happy that it seems like you're in a good place, because I know we'd had some conversations, where you had you sort of had your concerns and your doubts about parenthood and like, absolutely. I mean, the conversations we've had, over the last year ish, and certainly since your daughter has been born, like, has been massively helpful. I don't know if I've even like said this to you yet, like massively helpful in my own sort of process as Emily and I start kind of thinking about when it might be time to start a family. Because I had a lot of the same, sort of fears and anxieties as you did, but
and I'm always like, and look, I'm bringing it back. I am always here to talk about the good, the bad, what you're going to go through, what you might possibly feel, because that's the other thing is that, real quickly, I won't go all the way into it, but real quickly with becoming a parent, and especially becoming a father, I won't say I know everything, but I can say is that the more that we talk about the uncomfortable feelings and the maybe not so good thoughts and the realization of what that actually means when you have a newborn and you have a child, like that needs to be talked about more, I feel like, and it needs to be brought up more, and to know that these things that people think about more than likely on a daily basis is not abnormal. Like it's definitely normal, but it's just not shined on as much. And all those feelings that anybody has is totally valid. And the more that you talk about it, and the more that it actually comes to a light that you can actually see through and talk about and learn from. So yeah, I mean, I'm always, as you know, I'm always here. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I think I'm finding. I had this idea about this. I wanted to make this series where I'd basically just start like grabbing everybody I know and having these like sort of sit downs to.
Which I thought was a great idea.
I've been very happy with the results so far. The idea of like getting to know people a little better. And I think what I'm finding pretty quickly is my initial thought was like, we'll do like an hour or whatever, and now 2 of them in, like I'm pretty quickly finding that like an hour and a half to 2 hours is about the like is about as short as it seems like feels natural for these conversations.
Oh yeah.
And then even still, I'm like, oh yeah, like we could sit down again and do like 3 more of these, and still not cover everything, which is in a way, I guess, a testament to the kind of the core concept of this. That like I had this thought that just like I bet I could sit down with anybody and just and talk, and instead of just like bullshitting about video games or whatever other thing, like really like digging into just like their life experiences and really getting to know somebody, like
and
there's so much value in that. And I hope that like if anybody ever listens to these, which I keep saying, like I'm sure no one ever will, but like if anybody ever does listen to these, I hope it like encourages people to do the same in their own life. Not that they have to make a podcast out of it, but
opening up that door to conversation to anyone is so important. And understanding that the fact is that in this day and age, there's so many different avenues in which to do that. Instant messaging, text messages, phone calls, video messaging, any way that anybody is comfortable in, and to step outside your own comfort zone and to talk with some people that you may not have even thought of ever even talking to. Like. It is definitely, that's why I wanted to be a part of it. Like I had no problem being a part of this, because I see like just like you, the great possibility and the opportunity it is for this to give somebody some reflective stories, but also looking at themselves and to opening up those doors possibly, and to give themselves in a different light. Like to have people not be so hard on themselves and open up to new experiences. Like, and that's a great thing. And I believe that's more of what's needed, especially right now. Like more open-mindedness.
More togetherness, less less looking at what we have differences with people, and maybe a little more looking at what we have in common. I think would help everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for making the time to sit down with me today. We absolutely suck at Left 4 Dead.
Yes, absolutely.
Couldn't beat a level in this. Talking and gaming is quite difficult.
Hard as fuck.
But hopefully people are not coming to this to see pro Left 4 Dead strats, and won't be too frustrated with us being a pair of complete potatoes trying to do this. So thank you for sitting down with me.
Thank you.
Well, I think I said this in the other one too. I think we can all agree we are heroes. We've solved all the world's problems. And I hope that anybody who stumbles upon this in the future and gives it a listen found it interesting, found it enriching, and I hope that folks will join me again another time as I sit down with somebody else and spend a little while chatting with them. And so I feel like as we sign off here, I feel like I have successfully gotten to know you, Kurtis.
Hey, yeah.
Hey,
absolutely.
All right. Well, I'll see everybody next time.
Thank you. Bye.